Well, hello, everyone.
Good.
Hello, Dr.
I was going
Cook.
to say good morning, but it could be whenever.
That's right.
Good day.
Well, Dr. Cook, are you ready for some great questions today?
I am so ready, Cammie. It's
All
amazing.
right, we have some good ones. All right, let me pull up my PowerPoint and we will begin. You see that?
Yes.
Okay, let's move on to the first question here. All right, Dr. Cook, what is the simplest way to explain how limbic arc works to someone who has never heard of it?
It's magic. No, that's not a good way to explain it. Um, uh, Boy, this is a good question. I think the way I would explain it is limbic arc is an information processor, and it's based on the theory that information delivered to humans in or pets in any form will have an impact that is measurable or obvious or something you'll notice. Um, I don't know if I'd go into any more explanation than that. Um,
Okay.
how to explain limbic arc works. The challenge you see is we're using concepts and scientific principles that are fairly cutting edge. And because they're not well understood, and the things that you don't understand, you tend to discount. So if someone asked that question, I think the easiest way to answer it would be to give them a story.
Hmm.
Um, I would say it's an information processor, and it's based on the theory or the hypothesis that information delivered to us in the way limbic arc does can impact the quality of our life in a positive way and in ways that are noticeable and that we can actually track. And let me tell you a story. And then I would use either a personal story or I would use a story of someone I know. And I don't know that I would make that story too spectacular. Let me let me tell a story why I say that. Several years ago, when we were starting to develop and become experts in voice analysis and the application of voice energy, we had this device we had built and we were using it in the clinic, and it was incredible. I mean, it was miraculous in many instances. And it was so profound that we just wanted to tell everybody about it. And so when patients would come in and we would say, hey, we're going to put you in this technology and try it, then we would tell them the stories about how amazing it was. And what we learned was for most people, the experience was not miraculous because
Hmm.
most of us don't need miracles. All we need are periodic course corrections. And that's what most people would get. It would be a course correction. Their life would become marginally better, not miraculously better. Well, as we told patients that, about these miraculous stories, and then they didn't have a miracle, they thought, oh gosh, what's wrong with me? How come I didn't have that experience? Well, it's because you didn't need it. That was the answer. But it was too late because we'd created the expectation in them that everybody gets this miracle. I would make sure that you apply the same experience or the same, the things we learned there, I would apply it to limbic arc. I wouldn't tell them about the woman who couldn't walk and she turned on an InfoBoost, and within a day she was up out of her wheelchair walking around. Uh,
Right. Too
uh,
dramatic.
Yeah, that may be a little bit too much. You might talk about, well, I know more than one person who had migraines, and when they turned on an InfoBoost, they felt immediate relief. Maybe their migraines didn't go away completely, but they felt so much better that it was easy for them to make the connection. Then, if you want to talk more, you might say one of the challenges that we have with Limbic Arc is the benefits you get are sometimes indirect. So a direct benefit would be, oh, you have a migraine, you turn on an InfoBoost, your migraine goes away, you go, voila, that's amazing. An indirect benefit would be you have a migraine, you turn on an InfoBoost, your migraine doesn't get better, but somebody or some information comes into your life that leads to the solution to your migraine. And so that is an indirect benefit. Limbic Arc actually moved your position in the 0 point field, or it gave you a shift in your field where you're now open to receive this additional information, and it naturally comes to you. So one of the challenges is recognizing that indirect benefits are benefits, and you can attribute those to Limbic Arc. I hope that
Okay.
that was kind of a long, simple explanation, but those are some thoughts.
All right. No, that was good. All right. Can you create an info boost for brain health or the respiratory system?
Yes. Next question. Let me talk a little further though. Cami, we are just about to release an update to the Limbic Arc app, and that update is the opportunity to participate in a significant research endeavor. If you choose to become a research participant, which you'll do by going through and filling out certain information and accepting the terms and conditions, then it opens up for you a vast library, 10, 11, 12 times bigger than what we have currently. And because you are participating in research, we will now be able to make available to you info boosts that are designed for purposes specific, like this info boost is designed to deal with a certain kind of migraine headache, or to deal with memory loss, or to deal. So basically, the info boost will be what you might call more medical, but really what they are is they're more specifically identified. And then you'll be able to use these new tools and these new info boosts, and they will be very specific, and not just for health things. There'll be very specific ones for financial things, or for social, or for even spiritual things. So we're dealing with all 5 of the domains of the quality of life.
Okay. This next one is good. Has your understanding of how Limbic Arc works changed since you first developed the technology?
Well, really, no, it hasn't. The technology, I think I explained in in a recent call, kind of, I went through the history of how it came about. And the technology was really developed because I had an understanding of how it worked. And since then, the experiences that I've had with the technology in whatever form that we put it together in, it's just reinforced that understanding. So it really hasn't changed. It's probably matured, but it hasn't changed.
Yeah. Okay. When running an info boost, is there a difference between giving the body more information and giving it better information?
For sure, that the answer is yes. Here's an analogy. If Well, let's see. I'm trying to think of a story.
Okay.
I remember a guy who gave this amazing talk once, and the speaker who got up after him said, "That was an amazing talk. You know, I have a book at home that's got every word of that talk in it. It's the dictionary." And and I think that's the difference between more information and better or the right information. So you could take the library and you could load everything in the library into an InfoBoost and then activate it. But that would be like consuming the entire dictionary. And I think that because of the lack of specificity, because of the lack of focus, you would actually receive less benefit than you would if you narrowed the information and got the information that was more specific to what your objective was. So my tendency when I turn on an InfoBoost is to use less information as opposed to more. And and I don't say that because that's the right way to do it. That's just the way I do it. That's the way I prefer to do it. I know
Okay.
some people do better with more information. And so I'm not saying you shouldn't use lots of items in your InfoBoost. What you should do is experiment and find out how you respond, and then that becomes the pattern that's right for you.
Okay. Great response. Does someone need to understand the science behind limbic arc to use it effectively?
No, no. Do you need to understand how your cell phone works before you can make a phone call? And the answer is no, you don't. You just need to know what to do to make a phone call.
Yeah.
And the same is true with Limbic Arc. If you know how to create and activate an InfoBoost, that's all you need to know.
Okay. Could limbic arc provide support for people experience sinusitis, rhinitis, or strong seasonal allergies?
It can. And if you look at those two words in English, itis, I-T-I-S, means inflammation. So sinusitis is just inflamed sinuses, rhinitis, just another form of inflammation. The way I got into all of this, Cami, was I had incredible allergies. And a friend of mine who was a dentist cured those allergies with information using it's not the same as what we do with limbic arc, but it's a very parallel application.
Yeah. Well, and
And
I remember talking about this story in depth on our last call with Dr. Cook.
yeah, yeah,
It was great.
and so I can tell you from personal experience, yes, you can
Right.
deal with these. Now, again, it's going to get better when we make this new release. And I'm talking about this release, Cami, because we're days away. We're hoping to release this next week. We're, as Paul, our guru developer, says, we're polishing the apple, and we're just trying to make it better and prettier. But when we make that release, I encourage everybody to become research participants because it opens up a tremendous amount of horsepower that we don't have yet in Limbic Arc.
Okay. How important is the intention or goal of the person using an InfoBoost?
Well, an InfoBoost is not something like hypnotherapy. It's not something like a positive affirmation. It's not a conscious to subconscious experience. It really integrates both conscious and subconscious. But when you create a custom InfoBoost, when you're creating a Spark, we tell you to focus on the intent that you're after and only speak about your intent. And the reason we tell you that is because voice energy is topic specific. And what you want to do is you want to give limbic arc as much focused, concentrated energy in your voice so that the scan is the items in the library are prioritized in the best way they can be. So, so when you create a spark, make sure that you get in mind your intention or your goal. And then for the 10 seconds that you're talking, talk specifically about that goal or that intention. And you can talk about it in a positive way or in a negative way. In other words, if you're having depression, you could say, I don't want to have depression. I want to be happy. I want to be full of joy. I want a life that's fulfilled. So that'll be a positive way. A negative way would be, I'm so tired of being depressed. I always feel sad and I'm always angry and thinking negative. That's more the negative way of talking about it, but both of them work. It doesn't matter if it's positive or negative. Anyway, beyond that, then I don't think your intention or your goal becomes significant because once you've turned on the InfoBoost, that information is delivered to you through the field effect at a subconscious level, and you incorporate it very quickly. Your body takes that information and uses it to its own benefit. We do have, however, when you activate an InfoBoost, in some countries, you'll get a text message periodically through the day that says, hey, you've got an InfoBoost going. And in other countries, you get that notification via email. The reason that we engage you at a conscious level in that way is because we've learned that in order for the InfoBoost to be effective, the information has to be delivered in a way that is obvious to the subconscious and obvious to the conscious. So the conscious reminder acts as kind of a coupling. It has a coupling effect between the conscious and the subconscious, and that makes it effective. We did some experiments early on to see if you could just turn on an InfoBoost, and back then we didn't call them InfoBoost, but if you could just take the information and download it subconsciously, would you get spontaneously smarter? That's really what we were testing. And we found that that didn't work. You can't just take subconscious information and score better on a test. But if you get the subconscious information and you study the information, then your test score goes up. Same thing is true with limbic arc. You have to have the conscious, reminder, and you have to have the subconscious input. So we accomplish both.
Okay. All right, this next question.
That was a long explanation.
No, it was great. This next one we receive on a regular basis. So I'll let you respond to this one. Is there a recommended time of day to activate an InfoBoost?
No, I don't think so. You can schedule an InfoBoost. So if you have a sleep InfoBoost, you might want to activate that close to bedtime and then deactivate it close to the time you're going to wake up.
Well, that's good advice.
If you have an energy InfoBoost, you may want to activate that when you get up and deactivate it when you go to bed. So again, that's a matter of personal preference. Some people just turn them on and let them run. And others find that they have to be more specific in their scheduling, because if they don't, if they turn the energy InfoBoost on and leave it on, they can't fall asleep. Or if they turn the sleep on, they can't wake up. So
yeah, that makes sense.
So I think you can turn it on anytime, but you might want to schedule when it comes on and off.
Okay. What should someone consider when choosing between a predefined InfoBoost and a custom InfoBoost?
Well, the predefined InfoBoosts are simply collections of library items that have a known benefit that fits the InfoBoost that we put it into. So let's assume that you have seasonal allergies. Let's go back to that question. Is a predefined allergy InfoBoost better for you than one that's specific to what, that a custom one you might create yourself? The advantage of using the predefined is that the items in there have a known benefit to seasonal allergies. However, you may not be suffering from all of those things. You may just be suffering from, say, grass pollen. And so it may be more beneficial to you to eliminate the things that you don't have, that don't benefit you, and just use the things that do benefit you. And the way you would do that is you could take a predefined InfoBoost, you can create a Spark scan, and then that will sorts the entire library. It will sort that predefined InfoBoost as well. And then you select the things that show up at the top of the list. Those are probably the ones that will give you the most benefit.
Okay. When I run an InfoBoost, am I receiving energy from the quantum field?
I don't know that I would say you're receiving energy. One of the things that Limbic Arc is it's not a diagnostic device, and it's not a treatment device. And it's not a frequency generator. There are some devices that, they're based on the theory that frequency is essentially the foundation of everything. Well, Limbic Arc is built on the assumption that information is really the foundation of everything. And so all we're doing is we are using a quantum field effect to deliver information to you, but it's not like we're transmitting energy. We don't claim to be, giving you, so many volts of whatever. It's just we're giving you information, and your body uses that information to its benefit because that's the way your body is built. It's just, it uses information, and we're just giving you some more of it. So I would hesitate to say that we're sending you energy. I would just say we're sending you information.
Right. Okay. Are lower percentages sometimes more appropriate than higher percentages when activating an InfoBoost?
They may be. Can I tell you another story?
Yes, I love stories.
Okay. Thanks, Cami. Gosh, 30 years ago, I started to develop a different kind of clinical testing. And it's with one of our companies. It's called Zyto, and we built a hand cradle, and we measured coherent patterns, for energy coherent patterns. And I thought that what I was doing was extending a technique that's called electroacupuncture according to Vol. And that's called EAV. And in EAV, certain readings can be interpreted in certain ways. And when I built the Zyto technology, I thought, oh, we can probably interpret this in a similar way. Well, what I noticed was, as I was scanning patients, is I would notice that the things that showed up with high positive values often correlated with what showed up at the bottom with high negative values. And so my thought was, oh, well, there's a strong correlation between the positives and the negatives. So probably what I should be doing is using both the upper and the lower. And that's what I did until I started making my patients sick. And I realized, oh, okay, I think what's happening here is even though there's a correlation, the positive is actually the right thing. The bottom is maybe the right thing, but too much of the right thing. And so I
Hmm.
stopped giving them the negative things and only the positive, and they got better. I didn't make them sick anymore. So if you want to experiment with that, I think it would be fine to do it. But um, as a rule, based on my experience, I don't go to the bottom of the list. I stay at the top of the list.
Okay. Great advice. How do you determine whether two boost ingredients belong together in the same InfoBoost?
Well, if they show up through a Spark scan and they're both in, the top range or the range
Uh-huh.
that you select from, then I just select them. Um, Remember, what we're doing is not chemistry. Now, because I say that because if you're giving minerals, there are some minerals that counteract other minerals. And so you don't, as a rule, you don't give those two minerals together uh, because you'll negate any positive benefit you receive from either one of them. However, we're just dealing with information. And I don't think we have those same limitations because we're non-chemical. Um, so I tend not to overthink this. Whatever shows up in
Yeah.
that list, it makes some sense. Now, I will tell you that I sometimes will go through and I'll look at the indications and I'll think, maybe that's not for me, and I'll leave it out of the info boost. So I don't just have a blanket do this and do that and turn it on. I'll spend a little time looking at it, but I don't get hung up on the things that I don't know because I know I'm not going to hurt myself.
Right. Okay.
So,
Great. Is the technology different when it is used for pets, or are the same basic principles involved?
exactly the same principles are involved.
Yeah.
The theory and the hypothesis and the evidence we've seen is that uh, actors, so living organisms with volition, have the ability to take information and apply it in ways that are biologically evident
Right.
or that create biologically evident results. And I should say, even plants, you could even do this on a plant, and it's the same principle no matter how you're using it.
Okay. How should someone interpret spark scan results without treating them as a diagnosis?
Well, that's a great question because
It
it's
is.
really easy to do that. And you just have to know that this is not a diagnostic tool. And why is it not? Well, the main reason it's not a diagnostic tool is because we don't have enough research to back a diagnostic claim. Um, there are lots of times, and if you're using it clinically, what I would say is Limbic Arc will probably make you a better guesser. You're more likely to guess what the problem is or guess what the solution might be if you use Limbic Arc as one of your guides, one of your inputs. But you would never make a diagnosis just from what you see on Limbic Arc. It would be kind of like a patient coming to me and I say, okay, fill out this health history. And they fill out the health history and I look at it and I say, oh, I know what your problem is. You've got polio. It's like, how do you know that? Well, I looked at the health history. Well, the health history does not give you enough information to make any kind of a diagnosis. It just helps guide your next step.
Yeah.
Oh, the pattern looks like it might be polio. Well, let's run a test and rule that out. And when you run the test, it either, you have it or you don't have it. So that's the same thing that Limbic Arc would be. If anything, it would just be a triage tool.
Yeah,
So
excellent example. Mhm.
yeah, so don't ever tell anybody that you can find out what's wrong with you with limbic arc.
Yeah. Does knowing what an InfoBoost contains affect how someone responds to it?
No, you don't have to understand at a conscious level the information that's being transmitted or communicated to you at a subconscious level. Your subconscious is way smarter than your conscious mind. And so what we're relying on is your subconscious intelligence to take the information and apply it in a way that it can see that it will benefit you from a quality of life point of view. So to make your life better, that's what it does.
Yeah. How should a new user decide which InfoBoost to start with?
Well, I would think that I would encourage people just to start with something that they want to see better in their life. Um, so let's say someone comes to Limbic Arc and they're having a real challenge in a relationship. I would say to them, well, why don't you do a custom info boost and talk about the relationship that you want to see improved? And let's see if that makes a difference. Or if they have headaches, I'd say, well, and you might take the pain info boost, or you might take some other one and you might customize it with a spark specific to what their problem is. But if you focus on the problem that they're most concerned about at the moment, I think that increases the probability that they'll actually notice a difference. So, if it's a relationship issue and you turn on the info boost and they notice an improvement in the relationship, that's an important pain point to them. And so they'll be more likely to recognize the benefit. So that's where I would start.
Okay. Wow. That was our
Holy
last question.
smokes.
I
That
know.
was, I don't know if that was fast or not, but it was fun.
Well, great information. On this last slide, we have the email address to submit questions for our next Q&A call, which will be on September 17th. So make sure you send those in as soon as you can, and we'll get those included. But Dr. Cook, thank you so much for your time today.
Well, as
Great
always,
information,
Kelly,
as always.
it's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So thanks everyone for sending in your questions.
That's right. Okay. Well, we'll see you all soon, and thank you for joining us.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.